Hello and welcome. My name's Gary and welcome to this short release yoga practice. You can do this practice in the morning or evening or any time you'd like to just reset and release the body. So with that, let's get started. So from a comfortable seated position, it's always ideal to sit on something. You can have your legs crossed or you can kneel if you like, or even do this first part in a chair. Hands are on the knees. I'm going to do a practice called Sufi rolls. These come from Kundalini yoga and there's many different names for this practice. So we're just gently rotating in one direction, starting off slow, using the breath to come up and exhaling to come down. And then you can do this as fast as you like. It's really nice just getting into the groove of this. I kind of like closing the eyes. And it allows for a more centered practice. Coming back to center, then on the other side, so exhaling to come down, rotating in a different direction. Inhaling to come up. Back to center. Coming onto all fours. And I'm just moving the prop off to the side. We'll be needing that later on in the practice. Now we're going to come into a shape called wide leg child's pose. Not here for long. So if you need some props underneath your knees or you need a cushion underneath your hips, by all means do that. So the knees are generally out to the edges of the mat, floating the arms forward and very gently coming down. Now this might not be ideal for everybody's head, so you can by all means keep your head up. You can use your fist or a block or a cushion just to support your head if that's needed. And just hanging out in your wide leg child's pose, which is called Balasana. So 3 breaths in and out here. Last breath in and out. Then coming back to center, gently raising your head off the floor, coming into all fours. So this is often called tabletop, and it's usually a transition pose for what's coming next. So shoulders are stacked over elbows and wrists. Knees are hip distance apart, just underneath the hips. So coming into a shape called cat-cow, tailbone towards the ceiling, belly towards the floor, chin and forehead towards the ceiling on the inhalation, opposite on the exhalation. This is a lovely practice just to get that spine moving, especially in the morning or the evenings when you're feeling a little bit stiff from sitting all day or being in bed. One more round. And this is called Asana. So back in tabletop, right leg extends back. We're going to bend that right knee, knee to nose. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling to come down. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling to come down. Last round. Placing the knee down onto the other side. Left leg extends, bending the left knee, knee to nose. Last round. And just very gently placing that knee back down. Give yourself a little bit of a wiggle. Placing the palm, one palm in front of each other. It's about, just to give yourself a little bit more length, tucking the toes under. We're going to move into a shape called downward facing dog. So hips come towards the heels. Now with the hands, the little fingers towards the edges of the mat, and the weight is evenly distributed throughout the pads of the fingers. Then inhaling to come up, lifting those hips off the floor, and we're going to walk out the dog here.
So you may hear some creaks and pops, and that's perfectly normal. And then you're finding a still place. Hanging out in the dog. We're not here for long. 2 more breaths in and out. And we're looking for length in the arms and the back. And knees are traditionally bent at this stage. Then looking forward and tiny tippy toes to the front of the mat. And you come into a forward fold, so hands to feet pose, big bend in the knees, taking the pressure off the lower back. Then standing tabletop, so sliding those arms, those hands, just below the kneecaps. Then bending into those knees, raising the arms up. Over the spine. Hands come into prayer. And then hands come beside you, palms facing forward, and this is called Tadasana. So we're going to move into a practice called Salutes to the Sun. Now there's many different versions of this one. The one we're going to do today is called Salutations to the Sun A series. So from the standing position where you are, which is Tadasana, mountain pose, palms are facing forward. We're gently closing your eyes and just visualizing the sun on the horizon. Now these are very popular, these salutes to the sun, in all styles of yoga. And as I said, there's many different versions. Just acknowledging the sun, being grateful for what it provides. Then gently open the eyes and raised arm pose. You can sweep your arms out to the side or out the front, whatever's more practical for the space. That's hands to feet pose. Sliding the hands up into that standing tabletop. We've been there before. Placing the palms on the floor. We're going to come into a kneeling plank. 1 breath in and out. Tucking the elbows in, gently lowering down. Sliding the hands a little bit further down to the rib cage. And do some little cobra pulses up and down. So inhaling to come up, exhaling to come down. Once more, and just holding it there, so not too high at the moment, and tucking the toes under, and then coming back onto all fours, and into our downward facing dog. So we've been here before. So just hanging out here for a couple of breaths. Then looking forward, little toe steps right up to the top of the mat. Standing tabletop again, then hands to feet pose, then raised arm pose. Hands come into prayer, floating past the heart. And then down into Tadasana again. We'll do one more round, a little bit quicker, and probably less noise from me. So raised arm pose. Hands to feet pose. Standing tabletop. Stepping back into your plank. You can do full plank here or kneeling plank like I'm doing. Gently lowering down. We'll do those pulses again. Inhaling to come up. Exhaling to come down. You might like to go a little bit higher on the last one. So just looking just slightly in front of you. Then coming back down on the exhalation, tucking the toes under onto all fours. Hips to heels. Downward facing dog. Then once again looking forward. Stepping forward to the front of the mat. Tabletop, standing. Hands to feet pose. Raised arm pose. Hands come right down past the heart. And into Tadasana. Palms facing forward, fingertips towards the floor. Gently closing your eyes. Breathing in and out. Then just grabbing your prop, going to come into a seated position. So some of you will know this very well. It's called butterfly pose. And it's across all modalities. I've used this in martial arts back in the day when I used to practice. It's Taekwondo, karate, it's used in Qigong, and it's a wonderful hip opener. And it's one of the practices I do actually every day. So heels can be reasonably close to the groin, or you can have them a little bit further apart, whatever works for you. Some people like to put some props underneath their knees, and that's fine. Today, however, sitting on a prop is most important, lifting and lengthening into the spine, and just give your wings, your butterfly wings, a little bit of a flap up and down, not too much, just a little bit so that you know that you're working. Coming to a still place, walking the fingertips forward, bending from the hip creases. And when you can't come any further, just gently roll down. Now you may like to hold onto your feet as well. A lot of people like to do that. I'm just hanging out here for several breaths. Notice the sensations. And as you notice those sensations, just send a breath there. And also notice the sensations that aren't so loud. And send a breath to those as well. Three more breaths. Last one in. And a nice gentle sigh. Very gently. Coming back to an upright position, lifting and lengthening into the spine, placing the palms behind you. Fingertips are pointing towards the back or the wall, wherever you're at. Gentle arch. And really enjoy this. Back to center. Moving the props off to the side. You'll see that I've moved down to the top of the mat with the feet. Just going to gently lower down, and we're going to come into a posture called bridge pose. So heels, knees are bent, heels are quite close to your bum. You can probably touch the backs of your heels. And they're probably about a little bit over fist distance apart with your feet and your knees. And you're hailing, hips come off the floor, hands come up and over. And exhaling to come down. And again, keeping those knees reasonably close together. And down. Last one, but a little bit different this time. Lifting the hips off the floor, interlacing the fingers underneath your body, just adjusting those shoulders. And we're going to hang out here for several breaths. Can you go just that little bit higher? Lift the hips. 2 more breaths. And then exhaling, gently coming down. Now if you have room, you can put your hands into a T shape with your arms. But if you're like me and limited on space, just have your hands or your arms bent, and we call this cactus arms. Feet are moving out to the edges of the mat. I'm going to do some windscreen wipers here. So the toes are really just touching the edges of the mat, dropping the knees down to one side, to the right perhaps, looking over the left, back to center, exhaling to come down to the opposite side, back to center, and then the next time you reach the right side, just hold it here. Breathing in and out. Notice where that breath is within your body. Last breath in and out on this side. Back to center. on to the other side. And notice the difference here. Is it a little bit more stiff or is it easier? It's always good to notice what's happening in your body. Last breath in and out. Back to center, bringing the knees up to the chest. Just doing some small rotations in one direction and then the other. And very gently making your way up to a seated position. Grabbing your cushion or prop that you were sitting on. Crossing the legs, or if you're kneeling, hands will come into prayer, gently closing your eyes. And just acknowledging yourself for practicing today. Acknowledging the teachers of this great practice. And acknowledging the greatest teacher of all, which is your internal self, as we say, Namaste. And very gently open your eyes. Hopefully you enjoyed that. There'll be many more of these over the coming weeks and months. Had a bit of a request for some more, so I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of this. And until then, bye for now.